Let me ask you a question right now. Are you walking around like a clearance item when God designed you to be a masterpiece? See, we live in a world where people wear availability like it's a badge of honor. I'm always there for everybody. Hit me up anytime. I'm just a text away. And what has that mindset produced? Burnout, resentment, disrespect, and worst of all, a deep sense of being used instead of valued. You've got to hear me today. You were not born to be available to everybody. You were born to be valuable. And there's a difference, huge difference. Anything that's always available loses its value. You ever notice that? Diamonds are valuable because they're rare. But water, though essential, is cheap in a bottle because it's everywhere. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying don't serve. I'm not saying don't love people. What I am saying is this: stop giving full access to people who have not invested in you, respected you, or honored you. You're trying to prove you're nice while they're proving they can use you up. No more of that. You can't be on call for everybody while trying to build something extraordinary. You can't be a 24-hour corner store and expect the worth of a luxury boutique. Look, I came to tell you something bold, something firm, just like the truth always is. Your presence is a privilege. Your energy is an investment. Your advice, your mentorship, your time, it's not for everybody. The kingdom you're meant to build in your life, your business, your family, it doesn't happen by being the most accessible. It happens by being the most intentional. You got to protect your energy like it's royalty currency, because it is. Your value is tied to your focus. And your focus is tied to your boundaries. That's why you can't say yes to every phone call, every lunch, every can we talk? Because every yes to nonsense is a no to purpose. Let me say that again. Every yes to nonsense is a no to purpose. And you were called for purpose. You were created on purpose. You were anointed for purpose. When you stop showing up for everyone, you start showing up in power. There's a reason high performers don't answer every message. There's a reason mentors have appointments and fees. It's not arrogance. It's alignment. It's stewardship. They've learned how to guard the garden so that what grows inside of them can feed generations. And that's what you've got to do. Be fruitful, but don't be foolish. You want to grow. You want to elevate. You want to step into your divine assignment. Then hear me, you must stop being universally available. Jesus loved everybody, but he wasn't available to everybody. He healed crowds, but he had 12. He poured into the masses, but he withdrew to pray. He understood the rhythm of value, give powerfully, then withdraw intentionally. So stop apologizing for resting. Stop explaining your boundaries. Stop feeling guilty for not texting back. The right people won't be offended by your standards. They'll be inspired by them. Because when you finally stop trying to be everything to everybody, you'll finally become what you were always meant to be, valuable to the right people and powerful in your purpose. Because remember, you are not for everyone. And that's exactly why you're valuable. Let me tell you something that can shift the entire trajectory of your life. Value is not accidental, it is intentional. Value doesn't just show up. It's created. It's cultivated. And one of the most powerful ways to create value in your life, your relationships, is by understanding two forces that define greatness: scarcity and standards. See, anything that is easily available loses value, not because it isn't good, but because it's everywhere. You ever walk into a dollar store and see trinkets all over the shelf? Nobody's fighting over them. Nobody's forming lines outside the door. Why? Because they're always there. But now go try to buy a limited edition luxury item, something only 500 people on the planet can own. People will camp outside for days. They'll pay more. They'll wait longer. They'll respect the process. Why? Because scarcity creates demand, and demand is what drives perceived value. Now, here's the truth that stings. Too many of us are living like the dollar store. Always open. Always available. Always saying yes. You give your time to everybody. Your energy to every situation. Your skills to whoever asks. And then you wonder why people don't value you. Why they ignore your advice. Why they cancel on you. Why they treat you like an option instead of a priority. It's because you've been too available to be considered valuable. Let me say it clearly: availability without discernment leads to devaluation. If people can get access to you whenever they want, however they want, with no price, no protocol, no purpose, then why would they honor your presence? They won't. Not because you're not worthy, but because you didn't define your worth. Here's the secret. Your standards determine your scarcity. If you want to be rare, you've got to raise the bar. Raise the bar for who gets your time. Raise the bar for what you say yes to. Raise the bar for how people talk to you, treat you, and show up for you. If there are no standards, there will be no scarcity. And if there's no scarcity, there will be no value. People respect what you protect. They admire what you prioritize, but you teach the world how to treat you by what you tolerate. Some of you need to look in the mirror and ask yourself, why am I so accessible to things that don't feed me, don't build me, and don't align with my calling? The answer is hard, but it's honest, because you've been equating love with availability. You've been thinking that being nice means never saying no. But let me free you right now. Being valuable is not about pleasing everyone. It's about serving your purpose. Let's take it to business. High-end brands don't put themselves on clearance. They don't market to everyone. They exclude to increase demand. You want to be high value? Stop trying to be universal. Stop trying to be all things to all people. That's not strategy, that's sabotage. When you know your value, you stop begging for validation. You stop chasing after attention. You realize that your time is an asset, and you stop giving it away like spare change. You were never meant to be available to everyone. You were meant to be impactful to the right ones. When you start guarding your schedule, when you stop explaining your standards, when you finally realize that your presence is not free, you will see a shift. The same people who once overlooked you will begin to respect you. Not because you changed, but because your value finally spoke louder than your availability. You are not ordinary. You are not common. You are not replaceable. So stop acting like it. Value is created through scarcity. Value is reinforced by standards. And value is sustained when you live your life with purpose, with clarity, and with conviction. Raise your standards, reduce your availability, and watch your value multiply. There's a rule in life that most people never learn until it's too late. People don't respect what you give away too easily. They don't respect what you don't protect. They only honor what you honor. And if you've been feeling overlooked, undervalued, taken for granted, Jank, there's a good chance it's because you haven't drawn the line and said, this is where I stop. This is what I won't accept. This is what I stand for. Let me make this crystal clear. People take cues from you. If you treat your time like it's disposable, so will they. If you treat your energy like it's endless, so will they. If you treat your values like they're negotiable, so will they. And if you're constantly bending, compromising, over-giving, over-explaining, don't be shocked when people stop taking you seriously. Not because you're not brilliant, not because you're not talented, but because you haven't drawn the boundary that demands respect. See, boundaries aren't about keeping people out there, about keeping your power in. Boundaries are the invisible fences around your time, your energy, your mind, and your standards. And without them, you bleed. You bleed productivity, you bleed peace, you bleed purpose. Every time you say yes when you want to say no, every time you allow a toxic conversation to go unchallenged, every time you agree to something that drains your soul just to keep the peace, you're teaching people how to treat you. You're broadcasting a message loud and clear. I don't value myself enough to protect myself. Let's stop pretending this is about being kind. Let's stop calling it being a good person. What you're really doing is abandoning your power in exchange for temporary approval. And here's the problem. Approval that comes from self-betrayal never lasts. It won't bring you the respect you're craving. It won't bring you the success you're chasing. And it definitely won't bring you the peace you deserve. You want to change how people treat you. Change what you allow. When you start saying, no, I don't take calls after 8 p.m., people adjust. When you say, I don't entertain gossip, people stop bringing it to you. When you say, I charge for my time because what I do has value, people either pay or they walk away, and both are good outcomes. Because here's the truth, people respect what you protect. They may not like it at first. They may push back. They may call you difficult or distant or too good for them. But give it time, and they'll either rise to your standard or remove themselves. Either way, your life just got better. You don't need to be more available. You need to be more aligned. You don't need to be more agreeable. You need to be more anchored. People respect clarity. People admire confidence. And people follow leadership, and the first person you lead is yourself. When you honor your own time, your own energy, your own worth, it sets a tone. It sends a signal. It separates those who are here to support you from those who are here to siphon from you. You ever notice how high performers move? They're not explaining their every move. They're not making themselves 24/7 available. They operate with clear priorities, defined expectations, and unapologetic boundaries. And guess what? People line up to work with them. People study them. People respect them. Why? Because when you protect your craft, your brand, your mission, the world takes notice. Now let's bring it back to you. What are you protecting? Are you setting the tone or just responding to the demands of others? Do people know your limits? Do they know your non-negotiables? Or have you blurred the lines so many times that no one knows where you really stand, not even you? Honor doesn't show up by accident. It's created to teach people how to treat you with every yes, every no, every silence, and every stand. Your boundaries aren't selfish, they're strategic. They create space for growth. They filter out the noise. They establish your value without you having to say a word. So from today forward, make a decision. I will protect my peace. I will protect my vision. I will protect my value. Because when I do, I rise. When I do, I do, and I do. And when I do, the world stops treating me like an option and starts recognizing me as an asset. People respect what you protect. Guard it. Own it. And walk in it like you were born to. There's a dangerous lie circulating in our culture, and far too many high potential people are falling for it. The lie says if you're a good person, you should always be available, always respond, always say yes, always show up no matter what. But let me set the record straight right now. Availability is not the same as generosity. And if you don't understand the difference, your value will be drained, your power will be diluted, and your life will belong to everyone but you. Let's be clear, generosity is powerful. Generosity changes lives. It uplifts, builds, and multiplies. But generosity, by definition, is intentional, strategic. It's purpose-driven. It comes from strength, not from guilt. Being generous doesn't mean being a doormat. It doesn't mean overextending, overcommitting, or overcompensating. It doesn't mean answering every call, replying to every text, attending every meeting, or giving away your time like it's worth nothing. That's not generosity. That's people-pleasing. That's self-abandonment in disguise. If your yes is coming from fear instead of strength, fear of being judged, fear of being excluded, fear of not being liked, then it's not generosity. It's desperation dressed up as kindness. And that kind of availability won't earn you respect, it'll earn you exhaustion. It won't position you as a leader, it'll tag you as the go-to for convenience. High-value individuals, real leaders, real builders, real creators do not make themselves accessible to everyone. Why? Because their time has weight. Their focus is currency. Their presence is calculated. When they show up, they don't just be there, bring impact. They don't say yes out of pressure. They say yes because it aligns with purpose. That's the key difference, power versus pressure. You can't live in power and people please at the same time. You have to choose. Let me give you a hard truth. You're not obligated to respond to every need. Just because someone wants your time doesn't mean they've earned it. Just because someone's in your inbox doesn't mean they deserve your presence. You are not responsible for constantly rescuing people from their own chaos. Your time, your energy, your wisdom, those are investments, not freebies. And how you distribute them should be intentional, not emotional. Some of you are exhausted not because you're doing too much, but because you're doing too much for the wrong people. You've made yourself available to people who have no respect for your boundaries, your goals, or your growth. They only call you when they need something. They only value you when you're convenient. And the more you say yes, the more they expect. That's not generosity. They're just feeding off your lack of self-prioritization. It's time to change that. It's time to stop confusing being liked with being valuable. Popularity fades, but value compounds. And value isn't about quantity, it's about quality. You can make a bigger impact in 5 intentional conversations than in 50 random ones. You can change lives with a single act of powerful generosity, but only if you stop spreading yourself thin for people who don't even respect your time. Think of the most impactful people you know. They don't respond to everyone. They don't attend every event. They're not easy to get a hold of. And you know what? That's part of what makes them powerful. Their presence has weight because it's rare. Their yes has impact because it's not handed out cheaply. When they show up, people pay attention because they're not available to just anyone at any time. And you can operate that way too, not out of arrogance, but out of alignment. Alignment with your goals. Alignment with your capacity. Alignment with your values. When you live in alignment, you become intentional. When you become intentional, you become valuable. And when you become valuable, you no longer have to prove your worth through availability. So no, you don't have to reply to that message right now. No, you don't have to say yes to that favor that disrupts your focus. No, you don't have to be accessible just to be approved. Say yes when it's right. Say no when it's not. That's not selfish, it's smart. Availability is easy. Power is earned. Generosity is not about saying yes to everyone, it's about showing up powerfully where it counts. It's about protecting your energy, so when you do give, you give something real, something strong, something that moves the needle. You weren't meant to be everyone's on-call solution. You were meant to be a force, a presence, a builder. A leader, that only happens when you stop giving yourself away out of guilt and start showing up from a place of purpose. So remember this, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Be generous. Be powerful. But don't be available to everyone. You're not here to please people, you're here to impact them. And that starts with protecting your time, owning your presence, and standing in your value fully, unapologetically, and with power. One of the greatest mistakes ambitious people make is thinking they're supposed to serve everyone. That every opportunity is a good one. That every relationship is meant to be pursued. That anyone who shows interest deserves their time. But let me make something very clear. Your assignment is not for everyone, and that's by design. The more clarity you gain, the more selective you must become. Discernment is your competitive edge. It's what separates high-value professionals from scattered performers. It's the ability to see past surface-level opportunity and ask, is this aligned with where I'm going? Because not every connection is a collaboration. Not every inquiry is a client. And not every offer is meant for you, even if it looks good on paper. See, just because you can work with someone doesn't mean you should. Just because a partnership offers money doesn't mean it offers alignment. And just because someone wants your time doesn't mean they've earned your trust. You need to get ruthless about the quality of people you allow into your space, because the wrong associations will cost you more than money. They will cost you momentum. Your time is not cheap. Your energy is not infinite. And your assignment, your mission, your vision, your calling is too valuable to be hijacked by people who don't respect it. Every time you say yes to someone misaligned, you say no to something that could have moved you forward. Every time you lower your standards to accommodate someone who doesn't match your energy, your brand, or your values, you dilute your impact. It's not just about who's reaching out. It's about who deserves access. That's where discernment comes in. Ask yourself, does this client align with the kind of work I want to be known for? Does this partner operate with integrity and clarity, or chaos and confusion? Does this conversation elevate my mission or distract from it? If you don't stop and ask these questions, you'll end up chasing volume instead of value. You'll drown in connections that lead nowhere. You'll look busy, but you won't be building. And here's the kicker. Not everyone who wants to work with you is ready for you. Some people admire your light, but can't handle the heat that comes with it. They'll say the right words, but bring the wrong energy. They'll want access to your platform, your mind, your systems, but without the commitment, the discipline, or the respect required to handle it. That's where your filter must be stronger than your fear. Fear of losing the deal. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of missing out. If you want to build something powerful and lasting, you can't be afraid to say no. No to distractions. No to forced partnerships. No to emotional attachments disguised as loyalty. Real discernment requires confidence. It demands that you know who you are, what you bring, and what your mission needs. And once you have that level of self-awareness, you won't tolerate mismatches no matter how sweet the pitch sounds or how big the offer looks. Let's talk about partnerships. A bad partnership isn't just inconvenient, it's expensive. It will drain your focus. It will muddy your brand. It will tie you up in emotional knots and business confusion. You don't need someone who can just bring something to the table. You need someone who shares the same vision, discipline, and values. You need alignment, not just access. And if they don't match the direction of your assignment, they're not your partner, they're a distraction. The same applies to your circle. Who you keep close reflects what you believe about yourself. Are you surrounding yourself with people who stretch you, challenge you, and sharpen you? Or with people who cling to your old identity and resist your evolution? You're not called to rescue people who refuse to grow. You're not called to babysit egos or manage dysfunction. You're called to build, to rise, to execute. And that means your associations must be intentional, not sentimental. This is about purpose over popularity, power over pleasing, legacy over lights. When you start operating with discernment, everything changes. You no longer chase opportunity, you attract it. You no longer beg for respect, you command it. You no longer waste time, you multiply it. So make the decision today, I will not be accessible to everyone. I will not dilute my assignment to accommodate people who are not aligned with my purpose. I will choose my clients, my partners, my team, and my circle with intention because my mission matters. My time matters. My energy matters. And the impact I'm building is far too important to let just anyone in. Your assignment requires discernment. Protect it, own it, and execute with clarity. The right people will recognize your value and the wrong ones will remove themselves. That's not rejection. That's refinement. Let's get something straight. You weren't meant to be common. You weren't meant to be accessed, requested, or consumed by everyone. And if you want to elevate your value in business, in relationships, in your brand, there's a principle you need to live by. Exclusivity builds demand. Look at the most valuable brands in the world. They're ones that don't chase customers. The ones that don't discount their worth. The ones that aren't in every corner store flooding your inbox with offers. What do they all have in common? Scarcity, refinement, positioning. They're selective. And because they're selective, people chase them. Now ask yourself, are you operating like a luxury brand or a bargain bin? Are you intentionally curating your presence, your time, your offers, or are you just available for whatever, whenever to whoever? Because here's the truth that most people won't tell you. Being everywhere doesn't make you valuable, it makes you common. Being always accessible doesn't elevate your status, it erodes your power. And the moment people feel like they can get you at any time, in any way, with zero effort, they stop respecting the weight of what you offer. Exclusivity forces people to pay attention. It creates curiosity. It sets a tone. When people can't get to you easily, they begin to question what makes you so special. And in that space, your value starts to rise. But you can't just claim to be high value and then operate like you're desperate for attention, money, or approval. You can't say you're building a legacy and then say yes to everything and everyone. Value is rooted in intentional scarcity. Not because you're avoiding people, but because you understand the energy it takes to produce excellence. You can't deliver top-tier results if you're spread too thin. You can't operate at peak performance when you're diluted by distractions. And you can't command respect when you've given everyone unrestricted access to your time, mind, and movement. Think like a high-end brand. High-end brands don't over-explain themselves. They don't chase sales. They don't apologize for being selective. In fact, they don't need to talk much at all. Their presence, their consistency, and their results do the talking. Their standards are high. Their access is limited. And because of that, people line up. This applies not just in business, but in life. When you start refining who you allow into your space, your energy shifts. You stop settling for surface-level conversations. You stop tolerating one-sided relationships. You stop engaging in low-value distractions. And that shift doesn't go unnoticed. People can feel it. They see you moving differently. They see you protecting your focus. They see you choosing quality over quantity, and it makes them either rise to meet your standard or walk away. Either way, you win. Let's talk economics for a second. Basic supply and demand. When something is rare and of quality, the market assigns it greater value. Not because it's perfect, but because it's exclusive. Scarcity combined with substance creates desire. And when you become more intentional with your presence, when you refine your voice, your offer, your boundaries, you automatically increase your perceived value. You don't have to sell harder. You just need to become more precise. The more refined you are, the more respected you become. The more curated your brand, your circle, your message, the more magnetic your presence becomes. This also works inward. Exclusivity isn't just about how others view you, it's about how you view yourself. When you stop giving yourself away to everything and everyone, you start to feel your own worth rise. You become more confident, more clear, more committed. You stop second guessing yourself because you're not stuck in survival mode, trying to be liked by the masses. Instead, you're building something that speaks for itself. Let's be clear, exclusivity isn't about arrogance. It's about alignment, it's about building with intention. It's about knowing what you offer, who it's for, and how it's delivered, and standing firm in that. You don't owe everyone your time. You don't need to serve every market. You don't have to appeal to every person. You only need to be irreplaceable to the right ones. So from today forward, operate differently. Raise your standard. Protect your presence. Stop oversharing. Stop over-explaining. Start curating. Start refining. Start moving like someone who knows their value is not just in what they give, but in what they withhold. Because when you stop trying to be for everyone, you become essential to the right ones. And when you become essential, you become in demand. Exclusivity builds demand. Think like a luxury brand. Be intentional, be rare, be undeniable. The right people will always find value in what isn't handed out freely.